Howdy, folks. I'm Fair and Wise. Thanks for joining Consuelo and Ethan on today's episode. We're pretty sure you'll find it interesting. While you're watching, please take a moment to like our video and make a comment. Also, if you're not already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to make sure you're informed when we release each new episode. Now, let's get on with today's program.
All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a real-life treasure hunt.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, and not just any treasure hunt. We're talking about the one masterminded by Jon Collins-Black. You know, the one laid out in his book, There's Treasure Inside?
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this one. 5 treasure chests hidden across the U.S., right?
Right. And each chest holds the clues to the next one, with the ultimate prize being that lion's share chest.
Yeah, the one rumored to be worth over $2 million.
A cool $2.3 million to be exact, and that's not even the most fascinating part. We're going to go deeper than just the money because there's this whole psychological layer to treasure hunts.
Oh, absolutely. It's like they tap into something primal in us. That drive to solve puzzles, unravel mysteries, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And you know, we even have some listeners who are just as hooked on this challenge as we are. Mike from Denver, he emailed us asking about the frustration factor. Like, how does Collins-Black use difficulty to keep people searching?
Makes sense. I mean, a treasure hunt that's too easy wouldn't be much fun, would it?
And then there's Sarah from Austin wondering if AI is changing the treasure hunting game. You know, if some folks might be using it for an unfair advantage.
So that's a good question. AI is getting pretty sophisticated these days.
It is. But before we jump into those listener questions, let's unpack what makes treasure hunts like this so captivating in the first place. Think about that moment when you finally solve a tough riddle in the book. That feeling of triumph, that's your brain rewarding you with a hit of dopamine.
It's like our brains are wired for this kind of reward system. And it's no accident. That dopamine rush is designed to keep us coming back for more, keep us on the hunt.
So it's like Collins-Black playing with our brain chemistry to keep us hooked.
In a way, yes. It's similar to how slot machines work. Those near misses, those almost wins, keep you pulling the lever.
And that's not all he does. Collins-Black takes it a step further by weaving nostalgia into his treasure hunt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, each chest is packed with items from our past, Pokemon cards, vintage coins, even stuff connected to the famous Forest Fen treasure hunt. Remember that one?
Oh, for sure. The one that went on for years and sparked so many theories.
That's the one. So now he's giving us a double dose of dopamine, the puzzle solving, and the trip down memory lane.
He's a clever guy, but he's onto something. Nostalgia is a powerful force. It activates specific regions in our brains associated with reward and motivation, making us even more determined to solve those clues.
It's like he's figured out the secret sauce to keep us engaged.
He really has.
Now, when most people think of treasure hunters, they picture lone wolves out there, you know, battling the elements, competing against everyone. But Collins-Black, he actually designed his hunt to be more collaborative.
How so?
Well, think about those online forums like the Mysterious Writings Discord. People from all over the world are coming together, sharing theories, and working together to crack these clues.
It's kind of a global community united by this shared quest. I like that. It's like those ancient myths and legends that brought people together through shared stories and challenges.
It is, isn't it? And Collins-Black intentionally baked that team spirit into his hunt. Get this, each smaller chest contains a clue that's needed to find the big one, the lion's share box. So even if you start out as rivals, eventually you have to work together if you want to win the grand prize.
Oh, that's brilliant. It adds a whole new layer of strategy to the game.
It does. Okay, so we've talked about the dopamine hits, the nostalgia factor, and the community aspect, but let's get into the nuts and bolts of these clues. What makes them so darn challenging?
Well, for starters, Collins-Black designs his clues with our brain's limitations in mind. He knows we can only process so much information at once. You know, like how many things we can hold in our working memory.
Right, there's that cognitive limit.
Exactly. So he crafts them to be tough, but not impossible, staying within the realm of what our brains can realistically handle.
Is that where something like the Appalachian Trail box comes in? That one sounds insanely difficult.
That's a good example. It requires matching this stylized map to the real terrain of Vermont.
A mental marathon. No wonder people get so obsessed.
It is. And then there's the past and future box. It has a word search puzzle, but get this, the leftover letters from the words actually form new clues.
Okay, so it's a puzzle within a puzzle.
Exactly. It's multitasking on a whole new level.
He's definitely giving our brains a workout. But these clues, they're not just randomly difficult. They're also cleverly designed to help us remember them.
You're talking about the artifacts in each chest, right?
Yeah, how those artifacts act like anchors for our memory, connecting to the clues in a way that makes them stick.
That's exactly it. They become thematic anchors. Think about the Rocky Mountain box with its first edition of Forrest Fenn's book, or the Picasso coins and the George Washington jelly glass in the past and future box.
It's like he's turning the treasure hunt into a history lesson or an art appreciation course.
Precisely. By connecting the clues to history, art, or even pop culture, he's creating these vivid associations in our minds that make the clues much more memorable. But here's the real kicker, and you might find this a bit sneaky.
Oh, what's that?
He purposely throws in misleading clues, ones that lead you down the wrong path.
What? So he's trying to trick us. Why would he do that?
Think about it. Have you ever had a song stuck in your head that you just couldn't shake, or couldn't stop thinking about a task you hadn't finished?
All the time. Especially those catchy jingles.
Exactly. That's what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains latch onto unsolved problems and keep working on them in the background.
So by throwing in those false leads, he's ensuring those clues keep nagging at us even when we're not actively looking at the book.
He's a master manipulator of our minds, but in a fun way, of course.
Clever but sneaky, I'll give him that. It's like he wants to keep us on our toes, always searching for the next clue.
Right. And it often leads to those aha moments, those flashes of insight that seem to come out of nowhere, like when you're in the shower or driving to work. Suddenly, a piece of the puzzle clicks into place.
Okay, so we've established that cracking these clues takes more than just a map and a compass. What other skills do you need in your arsenal to be a successful treasure hunter?
You need a diverse skill set, that's for sure. Take the 24-line poem in the Forrest Fenn box, for example. Deciphering that requires sharp linguistic skills, almost like you're a literary critic.
Whoa, so we're talking about decoding poems, analyzing maps.
Oh, and don't forget about the lion's share box. The clues there require you to match these abstract illustrations from the book to actual topographic maps. That takes serious spatial reasoning.
And probably some cryptography skills with those Bitcoin-related puzzles.
Yeah, you might need to brush up on your hexadecimal conversions and your blockchain analysis.
This is sounding more and more like a mental obstacle course.
It is. And to navigate it successfully, you need a systematic approach. Have you ever heard of the ODI loop?
Isn't that like a military strategy thing?
It is. It stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. It was developed by a military strategist, but it turns out to be incredibly useful for treasure hunters too.
I'm intrigued. How does it apply to solving these clues?
Well, first you observe. You carefully examine the clues for anything that stands out, like a pattern in the page numbers or an anomaly on a map.
So, like, really scrutinize every little detail.
Yep. Then you orient yourself.
Sure.
You take those observations and connect them to the real world. Maybe you pull out maps, delve into historical records, or even research places Collins-Black was known to have visited.
Makes sense. You're basically gathering as much intel as possible.
Right. And then you decide. Based on your observations and research, you start formulating theories, testing them out, and prioritizing potential search zones. Finally, you act. You pack your bags, grab your gear, and head out to those zones to physically search for the treasure chest.
Wow, it's a constant cycle of thinking and doing, research and exploration. No wonder treasure hunters get so hooked on this. It's more than just a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
It really is. But here's a question for you. What if the real treasure isn't the treasure itself, but something else entirely?
Okay, I like where you're going with this. Go on.
We've talked about dopamine and the thrill of solving puzzles. But there's also this concept called neuroplasticity. The brain's amazing ability to rewire itself based on our experiences.
So you're saying solving these complex clues could actually be making us smarter?
Absolutely. By pushing ourselves mentally, we're strengthening our cognitive abilities, improving our problem-solving skills, and essentially rewiring our brains to become better thinkers.
That's pretty cool. It's like a mental marathon with a hidden prize at the finish line.
That's a great analogy. And that feeling of accomplishment, of having earned it through your own wit and perseverance, that adds a whole other layer of value to the treasure. It's like the difference between buying a mass-produced souvenir and crafting a one-of-a-kind heirloom.
So you're saying finding a Casasious Bitcoin, those physical coins loaded with digital Bitcoin, would feel more rewarding if you earned it through solving this treasure hunt than if you just bought one online.
100%.
Yeah.
You've invested time, effort, you've stretched your brain. It holds so much more meaning. And Collins-Black, he doesn't stop there. Remember how he includes items from the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt?
Yeah, the first edition book, things like that.
By doing that, he's creating a lineage, connecting his hunt to this larger history of treasure hunting.
So it's not just about the individual treasures, but about becoming part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's like a relay race, each solver passing the torch to the next generation. But hey, before we get too caught up in all these grand metaphors, let's loop back to those listener emails. Mike from Denver, he was asking about that frustration factor Collins-Black seems to build into the hunt.
Right. Why make the clues so difficult, and why would Collins-Black actually want to frustrate the solvers?
Well, it all comes back to good game design. Think about a video game that's too easy. It gets boring fast, right? But if it's impossibly hard, you just give up.
You hit that rage quit button and never look back.
Exactly. It's about striking that perfect balance, keeping people challenged, but not completely discouraged. That's where the sweet spot lies. And game designers spend a lot of time trying to find it.
It's like he's giving us a mental workout, but also making sure we don't pull all our hair out in the process. Now, Sarah from Austin, she had a question that's been generating a lot of buzz in the treasure hunting community.
Yeah, the AI question. Is it fair game or is it cheating?
Right. Is using AI to help solve these clues considered cheating?
It's a hot topic, and there are valid arguments on both sides. Look, technology has always been a part of treasure hunting, whether it's a compass, a GPS, or even just a good old-fashioned map.
Right. But AI feels different. I mean, it can analyze tons of data, spot patterns that we might miss, even potentially automate parts of the solving process. That's where things get tricky.
I agree. And that's where the ethical considerations come in. Does using AI give you an unfair advantage? Does it go against the spirit of the hunt, which is about using your own ingenuity and problem-solving skills?
It's almost like the conversations happening around AI in art and music. Is it a legitimate tool, or is it crossing a line?
Exactly. There are no easy answers. It might come down to personal ethics, really. What do you think? Where do you draw the line?
That's a tough one. And it's a question we're going to leave you with as we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
What do you think about the role of AI in treasure hunting? Does it enhance the experience, or does it take away from the challenge and the thrill of discovery?
Let us know your thoughts, and be sure to join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll put ourselves in the shoes of a solver and explore some of the strategies people are using to crack these codes.
Welcome back, folks. So before we took a little break there, we were wrestling with the whole AI thing and whether it's ethical in this treasure hunt.
Yeah.
But let's remember, Jon Collins-Black designed this to be solved by anyone, regardless of their tech skills.
You mean you don't need a supercomputer to crack the code?
Exactly. It really boils down to good old-fashioned observation, deduction, and maybe a little online research. Being a bit resourceful.
Okay, so let's play detective for a minute. Imagine we're starting fresh. Where would we even begin with this treasure hunt?
Well, Collins-Black himself has stated that every single detail in his book is intentional. Every picture, every page number, every weird word choice, it could all be a clue.
So it's not just about finding the maps and the poems. We're talking about scrutinizing the book for anything unusual, right?
Yes, precisely. You got to become a master observer, like Sherlock Holmes, but for treasure. Some solvers have even noticed that specific page numbers in the book line up with real-world coordinates, like latitude and longitude.
Wow, hiding clues in plain sight. That's pretty sneaky, but also kind of cool.
Right, and that's where the next phase comes in, orientation. You got to take those observations and tie them back to the real world.
So we're talking about maps, historical records, maybe even tracking down places Collins-Black has traveled.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of the internet. Some folks are using everything from Google Earth to ancestry databases to piece this puzzle together. It's like a high-stakes digital scavenger hunt.
I love that image. It's like those old detective movies, with the maps and files spread out everywhere, but with a 21st century twist.
It is, isn't it? And once you've gathered enough information, it's decision time. You start forming theories, trying to figure out which search zones have the highest probability.
So you might notice a bunch of clues pointing to a specific region or type of terrain.
Right. But here's the catch. Collins-Black is a master of misdirection. He sprinkled in false leads, red herrings to keep things interesting.
So you could be on what you think is the right path, only to hit a dead end.
Oh yeah, it happens. It's all part of the challenge. Remember that psychology we talked about? Even when you're frustrated, Those unsolved clues keep bugging you. It's like this itch you can't quite scratch.
You're really making me want to grab a copy of this book.
Okay, but eventually you have to stop theorizing and actually get out there, right?
What?
Absolutely. It's time to pack your gear, get your boots on the ground, and head into the field.
That's where the real adventure begins. You're not staring at a book or a computer screen anymore. You're out there in the elements, facing real obstacles.
It's exhilarating.
Yeah.
You could be standing right on top of the treasure and not even know it.
Oh, the suspense. I can imagine the adrenaline rush, but also the exhaustion that comes with this kind of search.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But can you imagine that feeling of accomplishment if you crack the code and find one of those chests?
It would be like winning a mental and a physical marathon at the same time.
Right. And let's not forget the social aspect. Those online communities where people share theories and collaborate, they're a huge part of this whole experience.
It's amazing how Collins-Black created this global community around his treasure hunt. It's like he tapped into this fundamental human need for connection, for shared purpose and adventure.
Totally. And remember how he hid clues to the lion's share box in the smaller chests? That forces people to work together, even if they started out as rivals.
So clever. It's like he's created this giant puzzle where everyone has a piece, and you need all the pieces to see the whole picture. But let's not forget, even though this is a game, there are real people behind those online profiles. They're pouring their time, their money, and their hearts into this.
You're right. It's more than just pixels on a screen. It's people's passions, their dreams, their hopes of adventure, and maybe even striking it rich.
It must be an emotional roller coaster, riding high on the possibility of discovery, then crashing down when they hit a dead end.
Absolutely. And even though they might be strangers online, they're all united by this shared passion.
Yeah.
It's pretty inspiring to see.
It is. Okay, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty challenges of this hunt. We touched on the different skills you need, but what other obstacles are these treasure hunters up against?
Well, one big hurdle is just the sheer volume of information. Collins-Black's book is packed with text, maps, diagrams. It's like information overload.
So it's not just about finding the clues, it's about sifting through the noise and figuring out which ones are relevant.
Exactly. You need critical thinking, pattern recognition, maybe even a little bit of intuition to navigate it all.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But the haystack is made of riddles and historical trivia.
That's a great way to put it. And then there's the whole challenge of deciphering what the clues mean. Collins-Black throws in all sorts of puzzle types, codes, ciphers, riddles, wordplay. It's a mental workout for sure.
Talk about exercising your brain. You might need to brush up on your cryptography skills, learn some ancient symbols, or even become a master crossword solver to crack those codes.
You might. And don't forget about the geographic element. A lot of these clues involve real-world places and terrain. You could find yourself hiking through forests, scaling mountains, even navigating caves.
It's like a real-life adventure game, but instead of collecting virtual coins, you're searching for actual treasure.
That's the beauty of it. And don't underestimate the physical demands. Some of these chests are hidden in pretty remote and rugged locations.
So you need stamina, wilderness skills, the right gear. It's a whole package deal. This is way more than just a casual hobby.
It is. It's a multifaceted challenge that pushes people to their limits. But I think that's part of the appeal. It's a chance to test yourself and see what you're made of.
It's like the ultimate escape room, but the stakes are higher and the playing field is the entire country.
Exactly. But let's not forget, there's also a competitive element to all this. There's a lot of money on the line, and that can bring out the best and worst in people.
So how does Collins-Black make sure everyone's playing fair? I mean, with so much at stake, there's got to be some temptation to bend the rules.
Right. He's laid out some ground rules in his book, and those online communities are pretty good at self-policing too.
So it's like an honor system among treasure hunters. They want to make sure the game is played fairly, and the winner earns it through skill and hard work.
Right. It's about maintaining the integrity of the hunt and respecting the spirit of the game.
I get it. It's not just about finding the treasure, it's about the journey and the challenge. But even with all the skill and planning in the world, there's still an element of luck involved, right?
Oh, absolutely. You could spend months poring over maps and deciphering poems, and someone else just stumbles upon the chest by pure chance.
It's like a real-life lottery, but the prize isn't just money, it's the thrill of the chase and the satisfaction of cracking the code.
You said it.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about that historical context Collins-Black has woven in. By incorporating elements from other famous treasure hunts, like the Forest Fen one, he's connecting his challenge to this rich legacy of adventure and discovery.
It's like he's adding a new chapter to a story that's been going on for centuries. He's building on the traditions of the past, but also pushing the boundaries of what's possible today.
He's definitely raised the bar for 21st century treasure hunts. It's a fascinating story that's still unfolding.
Well said. Okay, let's circle back to those listener questions before we wrap up. Mike from Denver, he was really curious about that frustration factor. You know, those moments where the clues seem designed to mislead you.
Yeah, he's right to point that out. It's a deliberate tactic. Think about it. A video game that's too easy is no fun.
Yeah.
You need a certain level of challenge to keep you engaged.
Makes sense. I've definitely quit a few games that were too easy. It's like you need to feel like you're working towards something, like the reward is earned, not given.
Exactly. Collins-Black is a master at finding that balance. He wants you to work for it, but he also wants you to experience that aha moment, the thrill of solving the puzzle.
And then there was Sarah from Austin. Her question was the one that's got everyone talking. Is it cheating to use AI to solve these clues?
It's a tricky one, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, technology has always played a role in treasure hunting.
People have been using maps and compasses for ages, but AI, it feels different. Like it could potentially take over the thinking part of the hunt.
That's the crux of the debate. Some people see AI as just another tool, while others think it violates the spirit of the whole thing.
Imagine an AI that could scan the book, analyze all the text and images, and pinpoint the exact location of the treasure.
That would definitely take away some of the magic, wouldn't it?
It would feel like cheating, for sure. But where do you draw the line? Is it okay to use AI for research, for gathering information, but not for solving the puzzles themselves?
That's the million-dollar question. There's no easy answer, and it's something the whole community is wrestling with. As AI gets more advanced, the debate is only going to get more heated.
It's a fascinating ethical dilemma, and it's not just limited to treasure hunting either. We're seeing similar discussions in art, music, even writing. It's like we're trying to figure out where human creativity ends and artificial intelligence begins.
It's a big question,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it probably comes down to personal ethics. What feels right to you? What feels like fair play?
Some solvers might be okay with using AI, while others might see it as a hard no. It's a personal choice.
It is. But let's shift gears for a minute. Imagine someone using their wits, or maybe a little AI help, actually finds one of these chests. What happens then?
Oh man, I can only imagine. It would be huge news, social media would go crazy, it'd be a cultural moment for sure.
It would. But finding one chest isn't the end, remember. It's just the beginning of the next chapter in the hunt for the lying and share box.
The stakes just got higher.
They did. The online forums would be buzzing, everyone trying to decode the new clues.
Oh man, the anticipation. It's a treasure hunt within a treasure hunt. This is getting me all riled up just thinking about it.
I know, it's exciting stuff. And it just goes to show, even in our digital world, there's still room for real-life adventure and the thrill of the unknown.
Well said. But before we get totally lost in the romanticism of treasure hunting, let's step back and consider how this is affecting the solvers themselves.
Right, it's interesting to see how people react to these challenges and frustrations.
Some folks get completely obsessed, devoting every free moment to figuring out the clues. Others go through a roller coaster of emotions, swinging from the excitement of potential discovery to the disappointment of hitting a dead end.
And for some people, this isn't just a hobby. It's a whole way of life.
They've caught the treasure hunting bug, and they can't shake it. But it's understandable. It speaks to something deep within us, that desire to explore, to solve mysteries, to challenge ourselves.
It's a reminder that even in a world that's increasingly virtual and automated, we still crave real-world experiences and tangible challenges.
It's a good reminder for all of us. But it also brings up another question. What happens when the treasure is finally found? What happens when the mystery is solved? Is that the end, or is there something more?
All right, welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We're in the final stretch of our exploration of Jon Collins-Black's amazing treasure hunt.
It has been quite a journey. We've talked about the psychology behind it all, the clever design of those clues, the ups and downs that solvers face, and even the ethical questions it raises. It's more than just digging up a chest full of goodies, that's for sure.
It is. But before we call it a wrap, let's talk about what happens after the treasure is found. What does this whole experience tell us about, ourselves and maybe even society as a whole?
Yeah, good point. We're just discussing how finding one chest is really just the beginning of a new chapter, the hunt for that lion's share box.
Right, but think bigger. What about the impact on the community, on treasure hunting as a whole?
Okay, I see what you mean, like a ripple effect.
Exactly. Remember all those artifacts Collins-Black tucked away in each chest? The Pokemon cards, the old coins, the nods to Forrest Finn's treasure hunt? Those aren't just prizes, they're symbols.
They're pieces of a story, right?
Yeah, each solver becomes a part of something bigger, like a lineage of treasure hunters going back through time.
So even after that final lion's share box is dug up, the story doesn't really end.
It doesn't. People will write books about this hunt, make documentaries. Those artifacts might end up in museums. The solvers, the ones who cracked the codes, they'll become legends.
It's pretty wild to think about, like a modern-day folktale. It could inspire a whole new generation of adventurers.
And it reminds us that deep down, we're all wired for this kind of thing. Treasure hunting taps into those basic human instincts, the need to explore, to solve puzzles, to see what we're capable of.
It's a good reminder. You know, we've focused a lot on the solvers themselves, but what about the people who are just following along, fascinated by the whole thing? What's the takeaway for them?
I think the big lesson here is you don't need a buried treasure chest or a secret map to experience that joy of discovery. It's all around us.
You're saying we all have our own treasure hunts to embark on, even if they're not literal.
Absolutely. It could be something as simple as exploring a new part of your city, learning a new skill, picking up a book on a topic you've always been curious about. It's about nurturing that curiosity, that willingness to push your boundaries and see where it leads.
I like that. It's not just about the destination, but the journey itself.
Exactly. And as we've seen with this whole Collins-Black treasure hunt, the most valuable treasures aren't always physical things. It's the knowledge, the skills, the friendships you build along the way. It's about the growth you experience.
Couldn't agree more. You know, speaking of friendships, those online communities that have sprung up around this treasure hunt, it's pretty remarkable. People from all over connecting over this shared passion.
It really shows how something like this can bring people together, create a sense of community in a world that could feel pretty isolating at times.
We might be separated by screens and miles, but we're all united by that love of puzzles, that thirst for adventure, and maybe a little bit of that treasure-seeking spirit.
It has been quite a ride, hasn't it? We've gone from the science of dopamine to the ethics of AI and everything in between. This treasure hunt has taken us on a journey.
And it's taught us that it's more than just a game. It reflects our human spirit, our desire to test ourselves, to connect with each other, to leave our mark on the world, you know?
It does. So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought. Imagine you were designing your own treasure hunt. What would it be like?
Ooh, that's a good one. What kind of puzzles would you dream up? What themes would you weave in? What would make your treasure truly unique, something people would never forget?
Let your imagination go wild. Who knows, maybe you'll spark the next great treasure hunting adventure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Keep those imaginations fired up.
Well, folks, we hope you found today's video interesting and informative. Make sure to hit the like button if you did. Also, think about sharing it with another treasure hunter. And if you're not already a subscriber, please take a moment to do so now. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, and remember, there's a treasure out there waiting for you to find it.